All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week. Got a jam-packed show for you today. We finally got to see the Philadelphia 76ers Big Three yesterday, and kind of was a catastrophe for a bunch of different reasons, but we did get at least to look at what it looks like, so I want to talk about that off the top of the show. After that, Tyrese Haliburton goes 1 for 7 for 4 points. He's gone to 20 points just once in the last 8 games. I want to talk a little bit about how different this Tyrese Haliburton is compared to the Tyrese that we saw at the beginning of last year, and what some of the reasons might be, and whether or not we might get to see that version of Tyrese Haliburton again in the future. After that, we're going to do a game breakdown on the Warriors and the Hawks, talk a little bit about the Warriors' dominant performance, but also do a check-in on the Atlanta Hawks. That's a team we haven't talked about yet this year. They are 7-9 and tied for the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, trying a fascinating look with the Trae Young, Clint Capella 1-5 combo, but with 3 really interesting wings that are starting alongside them. And I want to do deep dives into all 3 of those wings and talk about how they've been playing here to start the season. After that, we've got a film session. I've got a couple of clips that I want to go into. I have a specific clip of the Warriors blender offense and just how effective it can be that we'll get into. I got some stuff on Zachary Rissache and his ability to attack closeouts, which I think is fascinating and something that could be exciting for him in the future as he gets better. And then after that, I've got about 15 clips that I want to go through that I promised from the other day about the Laker offense. I'm going to zoom in on the second half of the Pelicans game from a few nights ago, where I said that the Lakers put on an offensive masterclass. And I want to kind of just break down the way that they can be so dangerous offensively with their combination of overall basketball IQ, off-ball action, and their ability to consistently generate great shots. Not like tough shot making, but generating great shots with their action and with their basketball IQ. So deep dive into the Lakers offense with some film at the tail end of the show. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. Keep dropping mailbag questions in those YouTube comments as well. I already have the mailbag for today that I'm recording that's going to air tomorrow. Got a bunch of good questions. We're going to go all around the league, but keep dropping questions in the mailbag, in the YouTube comments for next week's mailbag, which will be running on Friday. All right, let's talk some basketball. So the star power for the Sixers was immediately evident. One of the things that gets really interesting when you start to get 3 stars on the floor, and let's not even ignore the fact that Jared McCain has been hooping and just feels like a guy that's going to average 20 points per game in this league sooner than later. There's just a lot of offensive talent on the floor. And when you have a lot of offensive talent on the floor, that's when you have the ability to generate advantage situations for star level players. This is a concept that I'm going to talk about when we get into the film deep dive on the Lakers later as well. But it's this idea that, like, normally when you have a star or 2 and then a bunch of role players, it's incumbent on the stars to create advantages, and then the role players have to finish those advantages. But you really have to spoon feed them some pretty significant advantages, because most of the role players around the league are like, can hit a spot up 3, maybe a 1-dribble pull-up, maybe a driving kick type of situation, maybe a driving finish if they have a clean enough lane. But you're not going to get a lot of like super advanced shot creation and play finishing from role players. Once you put a bunch of high-level offensive players on the floor together, that's when you start to generate advantage situations for guys like Paul George, or guys like Jared McCain or Tyrese Maxey. And all of a sudden, that's when you start to see a really high-level offensive player operating with an advantage. That's when you can get extremely difficult to guard. And that star power was immediately evident. Tyrese Maxey's first floater that he hit off the glass in his return from his hamstring injury, Jalen Wells was in the corner guarding Paul George, literally face guarding him. Like just 2 feet away, barely paying attention to what's happening with the basketball, which Paul George doesn't have the basketball. He's as far away from the basketball as you can be, and he's glued up to him because that's the type of threat that Paul George is. It was a ball screen. Maxey gets downhill, makes a floater. What are the vast majority of teams doing in ball screen situations like that? They're taking the guy that's guarding the weak side corner, and they are bringing him in. The vast majority of teams are, if not openly tagging the roller, they're at least bringing that guy over into the paint to at least stunt and make the ball handler think that the lob is not available because he's down in the lane. Having Paul George on the weak side is going to generate a ton of space for this Sixers team. There was a dunk that Jared McCain had in a double drag sequence up at the top of the key, which again, that's where you have someone screen, pops to the top of the key. I think Caleb Martin was the first screener, and then Embiid sets the second screen. And then McCain tries to go downhill as Embiid is rolling and Caleb Martin is popping, right? In that action, Jared McCain gets up and gets a dunk. You want to know why? Jaren Jackson Jr. is guarding Embiid, and he literally turns his back to the guy with the ball. The guy with the ball that's been getting buckets for the last few weeks, totally ignoring him, keyed in on Joel Embiid with his back turn. And you can actually see, I think it was Brandon Clark. I can't remember exactly who it was, but one of the Grizzlies players is like, dude, turn around. they're about to get a dunk here, right? Like, that's the advantage when you've got so many players on the floor that have so much offensive skill that draw so much attention. You don't get good looks. You get easy looks, like super easy basketball. Jared McCain got a wide open three in the right corner off of a Joel Embiid post up where he drew a double team. Brandon Clark hard doubled. Caleb Martin kind of slipped along the baseline. Embiid rifled it to him, and that forced McCain's man to step over and help on Martin. Martin shoveled it back to Jared McCain, wide open three. There was a post up hook shot that Joel Embiid hit over Santi Aldama where he's posting on the left elbow area, and Tyrese Maxey is one pass away in the left corner, and Paul George is one pass away in the right on the right wing, and both of their defenders are locked in on those guys off the ball. There's so much space for Joel Embiid to operate. I took a screenshot of this play and I put it on my Twitter feed at _JasonLT. Go look at it. There's 20 feet of space on either side of Joel Embiid. He just methodically works down into the lane with a post up and hits a little left shoulder hook over Santi Aldama because there's so much offensive skill off of Joel Embiid that he has all of that space. So, before we get into some of the negative stuff, I think it's important to acknowledge that when you have this type of talent, and again, we're not just talking about the 3 stars, we're talking about absolutely nailing your first round draft pick. And between Jared McCain and Dalton Connect, it's another great sign that shooting, and not just guys that can make shots at a decent rate, but legitimate shooting talent, knockdown 3-point shooters are still of so much value in this league. And we're seeing so much of it. Look at Jordan Hawkins and some of the success that he's had in New Orleans with the Pelicans. These guys that can fly around and shoot, they bring a ton of value to this league. But you combine the 3 stars with the legitimate hitting of that pick with Jared McCain, this is an exciting team in terms of their offensive talent. And they are, if they can ever get healthy and stay together on the floor for an extended span, they are going to put up a lot of points. But in this game, they were just so abominably bad in transition defense in the first half that they still found themselves down by 10, despite Joel Embiid having a good half to start the game. And just in general, we talked about getting all the open looks that they got. They give up 21 points in transition just in the first half. And it's everybody, but it starts with Embiid. It was an embarrassing effort from Joel Embiid in transition defense. I posted one clip on my Twitter feed you guys can see at _JasonLT, but there was probably a half dozen different transition possessions where when Atlanta gets the defensive rebound, Embiid literally turns and jogs. The most leisurely jog you've ever seen down the floor to get back in transition defense. And remember, that big man, usually they're the guy that's running from rim to rim. They're very important in transition defense to get back and protect the rim. There was a specific play on the left wing, it's the one I posted, where Joel Embiid airballs a 3 short. Whatever, it happens. Make or miss league. Even ugly misses are just misses, right? But Jalen Wells is right there. They're side by side with each other. And yeah, Jalen Wells is faster than Joel Embiid. I think he's going to beat him down the floor if he really wants to. But Embiid turned and jogged. Jalen Wells turned and ran. The pass came right over the top. Paul George ended up having to step over to try to help. Jalen Wells just went right around him and reversed it on the other end of the basket. Paul George literally forced him to take an extra dribble and go around to the other side of the rim, and Embiid was still jogging, so he wasn't there to protect the rim. Literally, if he just runs, he takes away a basket there. And again, I know this is a very simple mathematical concept, but every time you do that, it takes away the time that you post up Santi Aldama and hit a left shoulder hook, or that you draw a foul on a post up against Brandon Clark. Every single time that you don't run back in defense and give up an easy shot, you are undercutting your offensive impact. And again, it's an entire roster issue. There's a bunch of guys that aren't running. There's even a case to be made that they should probably start playing some of their younger athletes, guys like Ricky Council or KJ Martin, more minutes to try to get more athleticism on the floor so that they can hang in transition better. But like, if you give up 21 transition points and a half, it doesn't matter how good your offense is in the half court. You're not going to be able to hang with these teams. And then you get out in the second half and they give a better transition defense effort, but a couple possessions in, Paul George hyperextends his knee again, and now he's going to be out for a little while. And so this team has issues that extend well beyond injuries at this point. Like, injuries are an issue. We've talked about that. 3-star build, discounted players down the roster. You gotta have your stars healthy in order to make these roles small enough for some of these guys down the roster. But this team has issues that extend beyond that. They don't behave like a serious basketball team. We talked yesterday about some of the stuff behind the scenes with Joel Embiid showing late 2 days ago, with Joel Embiid showing up late to all these team events, and some of the chemistry stuff and the coaching staff being critical about their level of seriousness in practice. If I have a coaching staff that's telling me, hey, the guys aren't serious in practice, and like, yeah, Joel, you need to show up on time to stuff, but like, all of you guys just need to take practice more seriously. And then I see an unserious transition defense effort. Like, what conclusion are we supposed to jump to there? I'm going to probably jump to the conclusion that this is a team that's not serious, and so they're not playing serious basketball. Now, again, the Eastern Conference is an absolute dumpster fire, and they have played a tough schedule to start the year. More than half of the teams they've played have been above 500, but they're also 2-4 against teams that are below 500. So they're struggling in those matchups as well. There is time to right this ship, and there is firepower to make this work at a really high level, but it starts from the coaching staff and Joel Embiid bringing serious effort every single day and that attention to detail to crawl out of this hole. Not to mention, you're not beating Boston or Cleveland or any of these teams at the top of the East or anybody that comes out of the West unless you sharpen up in these specific details. You are skilled, you are talented, but you are not so overwhelmingly talented that you can get away with playing bad basketball. Moving on to the Pacers. So the Rockets blew out the Pacers last night. We've talked about the Rockets twice already this week, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them. They're just an elite defense to transition team, and they logged 37 transition possessions last night, which is completely insane. They forced 23 Pacers turnovers. They scored 30 points off of them. Classic Rockets basketball, right? But Tyrese Haliburton goes for just 4 points on 1 for 7 shooting. He's gone over 20 points in a game just once in the last 8 games. On the season, he is now averaging just 15 points and 9 rebounds on 38% from the field and 28% from 3. He's just been bad. And the Pacers have been bad. They're 6-9 and 9th in the Eastern Conference right now. That's a huge step back for a team that made it to the conference finals last year. This is what makes it weird. He was on a truly special trajectory. In Tyrese Haliburton's first 31 games last year, he averaged 24 points, 13 assists on 50% from the field, 41% from 3, and 86% from the line. The Pacers at the time were a historically great offense. At the time of Haliburton's injury, their offensive rating was like 124. Like all-time great. No one's ever been that good for that extended of a stretch on offense. He put up, in the first round of the in-season tournament, 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists to knock out the Boston Celtics. You remember him hitting all those big shots at the end of that game, right? Then, in the semifinal against the Milwaukee Bucks, 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 15 assists, just barbecuing the Bucks in the open floor and in ball screens. And again, I had some people on Twitter this morning saying like, oh, Tyrese has never been good. He was just good for a short period of time and everyone overreacted to it. Or this is just a Linsanity run. He, in the previous season, for an entire season, averaged 21 points and 10 assists on 62% true shooting and made an all-star team. He was on a great trajectory. He was the next great superstar in this league. And somehow he's been derailed. It's so weird. Now, I've heard a lot of different things, right? Like the hamstring injury was pretty severe, and there is some precedent in NBA history of guys like suffering hamstring injuries and then like not getting back to form. That's what happened to James Harden, right? But it was considerably older when that happened, right? Like he was much further along in his career when he suffered that specific injury. And like there are also some details with James Harden and just like the lifestyle he was living behind the scenes and how like he's a little bit closer to the Allen Iverson of this generation than the LeBron James in terms of caring for his body, right? So like some of that was to be expected. Like James Harden was never a guy we all thought would have some like super, super long prime with the way that he was taking care of his body. But Tyrese Haliburton at his age should be able to recover from something like that. I've heard talk of a back injury that's been bothering him. And when he goes to the bench, he's doing a lot of like wraps and heat and stuff like that on his back to try to keep it loose. So I'm sure health is part of it. But like, again, this is an extended stretch where he's been a tiny fraction of the player that he used to be. And again, what I think if I had to guess, it's a combination of two factors. There's an athletic burst that's missing for sure. And that comes from the injuries. But a big part of it is he's just not hitting shots. And like when Tyrese was at his best last year, there was a very specific pathway in his success, right? It was basic stuff at the beginning of possession. So every single time there was an opportunity for a kick ahead pass in transition, he hit it. He was a deadly transition initiator, right? But then when he got in the half court, it was just a simple combination of being able to make every single read in ball screens, okay? So like ghost screen action with Buddy Hield, which by the way is an action they don't have right now because they don't really have a great movement shooter like they did with Buddy Hield. And that's something to keep in mind with this team in terms of their construct moving forward, especially since Buddy Hield's looked pretty good, right, in Golden State. But like in the ghost screen action, simple reads, right? Buddy Hield's man hedges. He's pitching it back to Buddy Hield. Now defense is in rotation. They can make stuff happen. No hedge. He's turning the corner and getting downhill, drawing a second defender, making the kick out reads, right? In regular ball screens, like with Miles Turner, same exact sort of thing. Oh, you went underneath the screen. He's hitting the pull-up three. You die on the screen. He's hitting the pull-up three. You're too loosely attached, chasing over the top. Really effective mid-range shooter with a great floater as well, right? Like he had a kind of a nice little like drifting scoop shot that he could hit with his right hand when he'd come across the lane and feed it up high off of the glass. But then he was just absolutely deadly with the passing reads. Like turned Obi Toppin into a usable offensive player because of his ability to hit him on baseline cuts. Just like every single time the low man stepped over to help in a ball screen, it was a lob to Obi Toppin along the baseline for a dunk. All of that is predicated, though, on his ability to get to his spots and make shots. The passing reads are still there. The ability to make the passes is still there. But you don't – all of that comes with a give and a take, right? If you're not averaging 24 points on 62% true shooting, then you're going to have a hard time getting the defense to react to you, which can unlock your best trait, which is your playmaking. What made Tyrese Haliburton special is he looked like an evolutionary version of Steve Nash. That was why I was so excited about him in the all-time context. I'm like, Steve Nash won 2 MVPs and is recognized as one of the great point guards of his time. Like Tyrese Haliburton looked like he could be a better version of that. Like Steve Nash with a little bit more size and a little bit more athletic burst. That's what he looked like he was about to do. And so I hope that this is just injury related and that he can get right and he can get back on his feet. But this is one of the most bizarre, like this guy was on a skyrocketing trajectory and he's a fraction of the player that he used to be. It really is strange. The Emirates NBA Cup is here. You can win big getting in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All 30 teams split into 6 groups every Tuesday and Friday, playing for the right to advance in the single elimination in-season tourney, culminating in the NBA Cup Championship in Vegas. We have a new favorite on DraftKings. The New York Knicks are actually favored to win the NBA Cup right now at plus 500, with the Cleveland Cavaliers with the second best odds at plus 550. First time, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Moving on to Warriors Hawks. So this was a Warriors blender game. What I mean by that is like the Warriors offense was just churning out points and points and points and points. The Hawks were showing high on screens, and the Warriors were getting a ton of buckets on slips and cuts. A lot of dunks, a lot of driving layups early in the game. Andrew Wiggins was incredible in this one. He had 27 points, really dominated the game as an athlete, had a bunch of run-out dunks in transition. he was attacking the rim out of dribble handoffs and ball screens. He's kind of looking a little bit more like the 2022 Wiggins in terms of some of his scoring pop off the bounce. He had 2 blocks, including a big one on Clint Capella and a help side defense possession and a ball screen where he blocked the shot, hit it so hard that it kind of like sprung a transition possession, sprinted the floor, and ended up getting a bucket. Like, just a really dominant athletic game for him. It was his 4th 20-plus point game of the season. He's averaging 16 points per game on 58% true shooting. 58% true shooting is Wiggins' highest true shooting percentage since he joined the Golden State Warriors. He looks great, and that's the exciting part. Like, I mean, when we talk about trades and stuff with the Warriors, I don't think you can give up Wiggins in a deal unless you're getting back a player at his position that is a substantial upgrade, because what he does is so valuable for this team as their primary point of attack defender, as their main athletic scorer at this point, in the same way that like Jonathan Kuminga kind of was that for Steph last year. It's looked like Wiggins this year as like the more reliable athletic scorer at the forward position, and a lot of that inverted stuff that we talked about with him and Steph that works so well. Shooting the 3 well again. Like, remember, it was just that 2022 season, he was like just under 40% on pretty decent volume, pretty close to that again this year. And so Wiggins is not quite at the level he was in 2022, but he's close, and he's been kind of trending upwards in the last week or so. And so with that being the case, I don't think you could even consider trading Wiggins unless, like, if you're getting like, if it's like Miami and they're like, we'll give you Jimmy Butler, but we have to get Andrew Wiggins back, and like you have an opportunity to turn him into Jimmy Butler, like, that's one thing. But if it's like a mediocre kind of replacement level star at a different position and you give up Wiggins, I think you're making a big mistake. He just brings too much to the table in terms of functional athleticism on the wing for this team. Another big one in this game for me was Steph's kick ahead passing. A lot of those transition dunks and transition runouts for guys like Wiggins and other guys with the Warriors started with Steph just throwing great kick ahead passes. We talked about this a little bit earlier with Tyrese Haliburton, but again, transition is a far more efficient brand of offense than half-court offense. That's why you have to hunt transition opportunities whenever you can. On a real basic level, just imagine a roughly 20%-ish increase in your average efficiency when you run the floor versus when you play in the half court. Okay. But in order to have success in transition in terms of your actual efficiency, guys got to run their lanes. And then every time someone botches something in transition defense, you got to throw those kick ahead passes. So just imagine defensive rebound, everyone's running. Someone's running the left wing, someone's running the right wing, someone's running down the middle. There's 2 players trailing the play, right? In your transition defense, there's the 2 guards that are up at the top of the key that are usually getting back, usually one stopping the ball, one's going to the rim until the other guys get back. But a lot of times you'll see like 3-on-2s where someone's back at the rim and someone's back above the break, but no one's someone's back above the break, but there's only one guy there and there's 2 guys running lanes. And so if one guy's running down the middle and the guy at the rim's kind of waiting for him, and then another guy's running up the left wing and the second transition defender stops him, but there's a person running up the right wing, you throw that ball to him. And if it's Andrew Wiggins and he catches with the head of steam, he's just going to catch and rack and go right to the rim. And he's going to have a pretty good chance of finishing in a situation like that. And then in the situations where the defense does their job, that's when the trailers get open, right? Throw that kick ahead pass. That dude rips and drives to the rim. The rim protector steps up. Another guy drops down to the rim to help the guy that the rim protector helped off of. Swing, swing. Now Steph Curry is catching the ball at the top of the key with an opportunity to attack a closeout, right? Like, that's where you can get into your advantage basketball and into your drive and kick without having to run a set, just by making those kick ahead passes when they're there, when they're available. Just that first half in particular, Steph had like a half dozen awesome transition kick ahead passes that ignited things for the Warriors offense. Another big win for them, another blowout win for them, continuing that trajectory that I expected from the Warriors after I saw them in the early part of the season, in the sense that their defense into transition is such a reliably great night-to-night thing that I think this team is going to win a lot of regular season games, regardless of what their playoff limitations might be or what the final form of this roster would look like. D'Anthony Melton, we heard, is going to get an ACL repair, so he's out for the rest of the year. So now your 13-man rotation, kind of, or 13 playable players, kind of cuts down to 12. It's a little bit more precarious, but hey, that's the value of having depth, right? And like Lindy Waters, again, just is a guy that has been a functional rotation piece for Golden State this year, right? But regardless of what the ultimate version of this team can be, it is abundantly clear to me here through the first, fifth of the season or so, that this team is going to win a lot of regular season games on their base scheme. which is great defense, running the floor in transition, and all of the speed that they have on the perimeter. On the Atlanta Hawks front, this loss drops them to 7-9. They're now tied for the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Trae Young isn't shooting the ball as well as you would hope, but he's been the high-level playmaker that he's always been. He's averaging a career-high 12 assists per game. He's surrounded by athletes, which is a really functional kind of like use of him in the sense that he's got Dyson Daniels, Zachary Rissache, and Jalen Johnson. With Clint Capella, he's got a clean ball screen partner. He can also run ball screens with Jalen Johnson, who's been good on the roll again this year. But it's a lot of transition passing because of all those athletes, and then generating closeout opportunities for athletes and guys to kind of slash into the lane in their drive and kick game. So like it's kind of similar to what we saw with the Clippers in the sense that like you just put a bunch of athletes with a good shot creator and there's a pretty high floor there, right? And like the Hawks don't have the talent that the other teams in the league have, but they're hovering around 500 because of that baseline scheme. We've got athletes, we've got Trae Young. That's going to give us a certain high floor, right? But I want to touch on all three of Dyson Daniels, Zachary Rissache, and Jalen Johnson for a minute because they're each fascinating players in their own right, and they are the guys that determine the future of the Atlanta Hawks in the long run. Let's start with Dyson Daniels. So he comes over in the DeJounte Murray deal, right? And he's having an insane defensive year. Fits the mold of my favorite type of perimeter athlete, which is like that. Instead of like the 6'8", 6'9", lanky dude, think like Jaden McDaniels. I prefer the like 6'5" to 6'7", kind of like lower center of gravity, bulkier, harder to dislodge. They tend to be a little quicker laterally as well. Dyson Daniels fits right into that mold. He's super active with his hands. He's very good at attacking the pocket. This is a concept that I talk about a lot on this show. Like really good shooters, they don't see your hand on a contest. Like their entire lives they've been making tough contested jump shots, right? But every jump shot starts the same way, right? If I'm going to shoot up here, at some point in time, I'm going to have the ball down here. And if I have the ball down here, I have to expose it at some point. Even if I try to gather out here, it's going to mess up my rhythm. Or if I gather way out to the side, it can mess up my rhythm. And yeah, the best shooters in the world, they have the ability to do that sort of thing at a certain level, but those are tougher shots. For the most part, the ball is going to be exposed at some point in time out in front of the shooter. Dyson's really good at waiting for that exposure and attacking the basketball. The De'Aaron Fox play. They're down one with on that final transition push. The Kings have an opportunity to win. And Dyson Daniels steps over and help. And De'Aaron Fox, who's been just lights out good as of late, exposes the ball for just a fraction of a second as he rises up for his left-handed little pull-up jumper on the baseline. And Dyson reaches out and catches him right when he has it in the gather zone right in front of him there. That's in addition to just being really smart defense because it's just a better way to affect a pull-up shooter than going after the shot up top. It just is like something that Dyson's been riding. And it's not just those types of deflections. He's active in ball screens by getting high with his hands. He can pick you clean when you're trying to dribble around him. He can do all sorts of stuff with his hands. But I think that attacking the pocket is a specific thing that a lot of really good defenders are doing right now. He leads the NBA with 3.1 steals per game. He had 4 games in a row last week or so where he had at least 6 steals. And again, in 4 games in a row. It's insane. He had a game in there where he had 7 steals. He's the perfect type of athlete to have at the 2 next to Trae Young. He's shown some playmaking chops too, like simple drive and kick reads. He's done well this year. Short roll passing and some of the Trae Young, Dyson Daniels 2-man game where like in most cases, they'll just put 2 on Trae and Dyson can kind of slip into the open floor and make passes there. All that kind of stuff he's doing really well. He's averaging 3.1 assists per game, which is a career high for him. The issue is he's just really struggling to shoot the ball. He's shooting 28% on all jump shots, only 29% on unguarded catch and shoot jump shots. He's also never in his career hit more than 65% of his free throws. The release looks good, but I'm just a little bit concerned with some of his touch stuff and whether or not he'll be able to become a good shooter in the long run. Moving on to Jalen Johnson, doing a ton of damage as an athlete this year. A lot of stuff in transition, a lot of stuff as a cutter and as a roller, doing really well as a rebounder overall. He's averaging 2.6 stocks per game. So like all the athleticism stuff is popping just like you expect with Jalen Johnson. But the problem is he needs to be set up for basically everything at this point. This is a crazy jump shooting stat for Jalen Johnson. Excuse me. He's shooting 11 for 20, so over 50%. On unguarded catch and shoot jump shots. So when he's standing still and he has an opportunity to load up into a shot, it's going in but he's shooting just 29% on all other types of jump shots. So he's not hitting the shots that involve like self-creation or when he's contested and someone can disrupt his rhythm. He's also well below a point per possession on all self-created sets. So like ISOs, pick and rolls, and post-ups. He clearly has decent touch, as evident by how well he's shooting when he's wide open. He's a pretty solid free throw shooter. He just needs to add a bunch more offensive polish if he's going to become a more reliable secondary option for the Hawks, which we'll talk about in the big picture here in a second. Zachary Rissache is also shooting the ball very poorly, shooting just 26% on all jump shots and only 33% when he's unguarded. I do like his release. He looks confident when he's shooting the ball. When he's in a tight closeout situation, he'll take a shorter dip or shorter gather and get rid of the ball quicker in a way that looks smooth. He's just not making them yet. And last year overseas, he was 1.12 points per catch and shoot jump shot. So I do think that that'll improve in the long run. The exciting part is he's showing some flashes as a high-level closeout attacker. So he's only getting 0.89 points per spot at possession so far to start this year, which is actually kind of in line with where he was last year overseas. But most of that has been his jump shooting. That has been an issue. He's shown some flashes as a high-level closeout attacker. He's got a lot of like pivot foot stuff, like the Jokic thing, where like he'll drive and then spin, but then immediately spin back around and go back the same way he was originally going. He's got a really nice left-handed finish, sometimes like floater, sometimes more like a hook, but he can get to that left hand in the lane and hit like tough shots in that mid-range. If he can add the jumper to the level that it needs to get, I think he could become a really effective off-ball scorer because of some of his like footwork and finishing ability in the short to mid-range. He's also shown a lot of that good off-ball defense that made him an exciting prospect coming into the draft last year, like playing passing lanes and helping at the rim and stuff. He's just under 2 stocks per game here in the early going of the season. I have, I think, like 5 or 6 clips of Zachary Rissache's closeout attacking in the film session. So hang out here for an extra few minutes and you guys will get to see that. Interesting mold, though, for Atlanta, right? It's Trae Young and a bunch of these long athletic wings that can do some stuff on defense and that have some play finishing potential. But it's a lot of potential at this point. None of them are shooting the ball particularly well. And none of them look ready to be legit secondary shot creators yet. And so the trajectory of this team in the long run is going to come down to, will one of those guys? Like, I like that 2-3-4 is a grouping that makes a lot of sense in the world of modern basketball as long as they develop. But one of them has to develop into a guy that can create offense out of against a set defense when Trae Young doesn't initiate things for them. That's something that's going to have to develop in that group. I'm not sure who has the best chance. I mean, I feel like Dyson has some playmaking chops, but I don't think he has the touch. Jalen Johnson, I think, has the touch, but he's just not as polished as he needs to be yet. Zachary Rissache kind of feels more of an off-ball scorer for me, which there's real value there. But like, one of those guys is going to have to pop as a shot creator for this whole situation to work, because it can't be Trae in a center and then 3 guys that need everything spoon-fed for them. That's going to be something that they're going to have to pay attention to in the long run. All right, let's get into our film. So our first clip here, this is that Golden State Warriors blender possession I was talking about. So it starts with a DHO out here on the right side of the floor with Wiggins. But right after that, it gets swung to Gary Payton, and then Steph Curry sets a back screen for Andrew Wiggins on DeAndre Hunter. This is all a fake. It is faked to set up as though Draymond Green's going to throw a post entry to Andrew Wiggins. Watch Draymond Green pass fake, turn and pass fake to Wiggins, but it's all a decoy to occupy these defenders so that they can run this off-ball 2-man game with Gary Payton and Steph Curry. Gary Payton sets the screen. Steph comes off. When Steph comes off, Dyson's chasing, but Bogdanovic has to help. And remember, as I said, Atlanta was showing high on these ball screens all night long. That makes for an easy drop-off read to Gary Payton. And again, these guys are just, DeAndre Hunter was watching Andrew Wiggins because of the fake post-up. Trae Young, somewhat in position, but there's just no hope here because he's just not a very good athlete, and he's in a low-man situation helping on Gary Payton. Gary can just go right through him. And again, DeAndre Hunter gets there, but he gets there late and not in a position to elevate, so Gary Payton gets an easy finish. Watch this in full speed, because that layup goes in with 10 seconds on the shot clock, as you can see right here. So this whole sequence happens so fast. Watch the speed and the pace that Golden State plays within the half court. Again, watch this in full speed. Handoff. Back screen. Fake pass. Weak side screen. Slip. Layup. That's the blender that Golden State puts you in. And it just takes one mistake for you to give up something open. Here's some closeout attacks that Zachary Rissache has, just to demonstrate some of the footwork that he has. This is one of those Jokic-like double spin moves. Watch. Like spin, boom. See that like step through? Beautiful work there. Excellent footwork. Here's another one. Look at his left hand. Beautiful, high off the glass. Super nice touch with that left hand. Let's fast forward a little bit here. Rip behind the back move. Pivot, lefty finish. Like that's a disgusting closeout attack move right there. That's really high level footwork and finishing with that offhand. Lefty floater, high and soft, easy. The left hand stuff is super fascinating. You don't see too many right-handed players that have that soft touch with their left hand. Drifting, that's more of like a hook. So he's got like a hook and a floater with that left hand. All right, let's move on to the Lakers offense. So again, this is from the second half of the New Orleans Pelicans game. And again, the main thing that I want you guys to focus on here is the way that this team can generate easy shots. Like, we know that there's a tough shot making piece. I know that LeBron James can hit pull-up threes at a high rate this year. I know that Anthony Davis can catch the ball in the block and go to his left shoulder hook and make it a good percentage. I know that Austin Reeves can snake a ball screen and get into the mid-range and try to grift his way to the line or knock down a tough contested mid-range jump shot. I know they can get a matchup for Rui Hachimura and he can go to work on the block and try to create something off the dribble. I know D'Angelo Russell can score in the mid-range in some of these situations. I know Dalton Knecht can hit smothered catch-and-shoot shots as he's flying off of an off-ball action. That stuff to me, though, as I've talked about so much on this show, those are ceiling-raising shots. Those are the shots you go to against great defense when they shut down the easy action that you run at the beginning of plays. But the better, sharper action you run and the higher basketball IQ aggregate in your lineups, the more easy shots you will generate that make it so you don't have to rely as much on those tougher shots going in. And in this second half against the Pelicans, and again, every single one of these clips is coming from one half of basketball. Watch how many easy shots the Lakers generate with their 5-out attack and just all of their aggregate offensive talent. A lot of specific things that I want you to keep an eye on. Off-ball action. So like when they're running action, you're going to see a lot of like exit screens on the weak side where it's like Austin Reeves coming off of Max Christie in the corner, Dalton Knecht coming off of Austin Reeves in the corner as they're running action to try to occupy the help defenders, right? That's a big one. It's also we see the Lakers actually do use quite a few 4-out concepts too, where they occupy the dunker spot temporarily. You'll see some of that in here as well. A lot of early screens for Anthony Davis, whether that's an off-ball screen in transition or a quick inverted ball screen when AD is dribbling, or just something early in the possession with a guard and AD to try to force a switch. And when they force the switch, then Anthony Davis goes down to the block and either scores and a quick post up or in an offensive rebound situation. You'll see some stuff like that. A lot of quick slips and screens and connective playmaking from Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell. So imagine LeBron James or Anthony Davis drawing a second defender and D'Lo or Austin catching the first pass and not being open to score, but making the pass that beats the defense to the hockey assist for AD because of those guys' ability to make quick reads when they catch the ball and quickly process what's happening on the floor. A lot of really high level stuff here on the offensive end I want you guys to pay attention to. Let's start with this screen with LeBron and AD, a ball screen. So what they're doing is Max is setting a quick screen here on Green, which is going to get him into a little bit more of trail position. That's going to make it easier for LeBron as he comes off to get him caught on this screen. Then when he comes downhill, LeBron's next job is to engage Yves Missy in the ball screen by getting downhill pressure. But watch here on the weak side. On the weak side, to occupy these two defenders, Austin Reeves is going to set an exit screen. All it is just a screen for Dalton Knecht to run out to the corner. So if you watch here, as LeBron's going downhill, he's engaging the screen defender. Austin is setting that off-ball action, which is occupying these defenders. And as a result of that, Yves Missy steps up. There's just a little bit of loose help here, and LeBron's able to get the lob to Anthony Davis. And again, you can see how this play develops because LeBron gets so far downhill. If Brandon Ingram takes this lob away, LeBron's throwing a kick out pass to a guy who's been a 40% catch and shoot shooter for most of his career in Max Christie. All right, next one. This was the connective pass from Austin Reeves here. So we got an AD post up, right? On the AD post up, the Pelicans are going to want to throw a double. Austin is cutting through. As Austin cuts through, he sees Brandon not paying attention, and so he slips into this area right here down by the baseline. Watch, right there, boom. So now he's behind Brandon Ingram, right? So Brandon Ingram is now in no man's land. This forces Green to step over and tag Austin, right? AD hits Austin. But now we have our weak side 2-on-1, right? Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is responsible for Connect and Max Christie in this case, right? He's splitting the difference. He's pointing them both out. He knows what he's doing. But watch how quickly Austin processes this. Austin knows, I just cut. Brandon Ingram's my man. Green is Dalton's man. So Austin has already done the processing in his head. He knows, I caught the ball here. I know Dalton's wide open. Watch how quickly he just turns and fires. Boom. Bucket. So even though Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is in the right place and makes the right rotation, the speed of the processing from Austin Reeves gets the open shot. Oh, I'm behind Brandon. They had to tag me from the weak side. Dalton's going to be open. Boom. Easy, quick processing, easy shot. Here's one of those early guard screens that got Anthony Davis a switch. So watch as AD's running the floor. Watch the quick guard screen to force a switch. Boom. Now we're switched, right? Now AD's got Brandon Ingram on him. But in this case, Brandon Ingram is lingering to help, but Yves Missy is thinking, I got to get back to AD, right? So as Austin slips out, Brandon is helping on AD because Yves got screened, right? So now when he runs back, boom, now we have a 3-on-2 on the weak side. Rotate, rotate, right? How about a swing, rotate, wide open 3 for Dalton Connect in the corner. So all of that happened because of just a quick screen by Austin on AD to bring essentially 2 defenders to AD off the ball. AD's got 2 off the ball, swing, wide open 3. That's just read and react basketball. Hey, I have a chance to screen this guy and just put the Pelicans defense into a shitty position before we even run an action. One of the big things that stood out early in this half was when Dalton, and again, at this point, Dalton's already hit 2 threes, right? So they're starting to consider running more action for Dalton because now Dalton's on fire. So here's a baseline action, a baseline out of bounds play. This is something that JJ is drawing up to try to get Dalton a wide open look, right? So it starts with this screen, which is a switch, right? Guard screen, Jalen Noel switches. He grabs Dalton, he points over. Now Dalton's original defender switching out onto Austin, okay? But now at this point, Dalton is going to go set a back screen for Anthony Davis. So Dalton runs, screens Yves Missy. This forces Jalen Noel to throw a hedge. Watch Jalen Noel throw the hedge. Boom. So now Jalen Noel's weight is off of this foot as he's stepping out, and Dalton has an opportunity to slip into the corner. Now he's open for the catch and shoot 3. So, couple things. First of all, more guard AD screening, which is causing huge problems for Yves Missy, right? And then 2, Dalton's now hit 3 threes in a row, and the Pelicans are not switching AD Dalton action yet. Keep that in mind for later on. Here's another early screen for AD at the beginning of a possession. This one is from D'Lo. And this is just an inverted ball screen because AD has the ball. So now Yves Missy's guarding AD in the open floor. D'Lo sets the screen. And again, Yves, not a lot of experience navigating screens. Jalen Noel doesn't really know what to do here. As a result, now AD is able to get ahead of steam. So now by the time Yves recovers, he's dead to rights here. AD's a bigger, stronger player with the angle, with more momentum, and he just goes right through Yves and gets a layup. So more guard screens on AD early in possessions. Here's another one. not switching the AD Dalton screens yet. Okay. So AD sets the screen, not switching. So he's chasing. Now he's in this full chase position. And what ends up happening here, D'Lo's man is running this way. Dalton's man is running this way. And all Dalton does is throw a little fake dribble handoff. And on the fake dribble handoff, Dalton's defender kind of hesitates for a second on D'Lo. D'Lo's defender hesitates for a second, and Dalton's able to turn the corner. And again, look at the spacing here. Max, good shooter. Austin, good shooter in the corners. Those guys don't want to help hard. AD's man ends up lingering back with him, and Dalton's able to get a dunk. And he brings that, and we've seen this a lot around the league this year, but like some of the more athletic players are starting to lean on shooting more, and there's just a lot of downhill force that can come off of the weaponized fear of your shooting, right? Now, this time, we just talked about it. We've seen multiple actions where the Lakers have gotten buckets for Dalton Connect because they have not been switching the Dalton AD ball screens, right? So how about we run another one? AD screen for D'Lo, D'Lo screen for Dalton, and then Dalton is going to back screen for AD. Watch Dalton. Okay, so this is the same exact thing that they ran out of that baseline out of bounds. So in theory, if they can get Brandon to linger and for him to chase, then Dalton should be able to flash high and get open. But Dalton's been killing them, so they don't want to switch it. Or they, excuse me. Dalton's been killing them, so now they're going to decide to switch it. So now we have the switch, right? All you got to do, pull it out to create a passing angle, and this is a beautiful post entry from Austin Reeves. Watch how perfectly he threads this pass over the top. Brandon's fronting. AD is sealing and creating the passing angle. Great pass over the top. Now we got ourselves an and one. So again, the Pels are dead to rights here because this is just the problem that the Lakers can present because of the sheer amount of offensive talent that they have on the floor. You don't switch, Dalton's getting open. You do switch, AD's getting a favorable matchup. This next one is something that I've been talking about for several years now, but the simple concept of AD popping in ball screens, which is always open. In a ball screen that involves a traditional drop coverage, the pick and pop is always open. It's a basic basketball rule of thumb that I wish teams would lean on more, but some of these big guys just don't feel comfortable doing it, right? So here we go. AD ball screen with D'Lo. Why is it open? Because we're chasing. This guy's chasing. This guy's dropping. So if he's chasing and dropping, our bracket is situated around D'Lo. If the bracket is situated around D'Lo and AD rolls, he's rolling, and this guy has an opportunity to potentially guard both of them to some extent, right? But if he pops, he's wide open. Notice Dalton sees that AD's in that spot, so Dalton clears out to the right. AD clears a little bit to the left. Wide open three, knocks it down. That pick and pop has been a huge addition to AD's game this year. Here's another switch, this time on a double drag. Watch how quickly D'Lo identifies the switch, right? So again, Dalton sets the first, boom, boom, switch, switch, okay? Now AD's got a guard on him. D'Lo's going to pass the ball over to Dalton, and watch D'Lo immediately point to AD. Throw it, throw it, throw it. Now, Dalton doesn't throw it, which is the right call. Dalton's making the right decision here because Brandon Ingram is now basically bracketing, and it's a complicated skip pass to get to Max. But all Dalton has to do here is get something up on the rim, and AD has a massive offensive rebounding advantage. None of these guys is getting the ball over AD. This is the only guy on the floor who has a chance to hang with AD under the rim. So all Dalton has to do is get something up on the rim. Drives, gets it up. AD, over all of them, offensive rebound putback. So the switch is causing just as many problems. This is an example of setting your man up for a screen and another one of those decoy actions. So again, D'Lo is setting his man up by working him down with physicality to the elbow, and it looks like it's going to be something with Austin and D'Lo. But watch how quickly, I'm going to play this one from full speed. Watch how quickly D'Lo goes from his setup to his cut into the handoff. Watch. Boom. Now he's got all this separation, And now it's so easy for him to catch this. And this is a legit 2-on-1. So as long as Koloko gets a little hit on him, which he does, Austin hits D'Lo's man, Koloko hits the screener. Now D'Lo has a wide open three. So this is the type of pace in the half court that's open. And this is why I always tell like my high school kids, I'm like, you guys got to cut hard. You got to screen and move hard. Everything you do has to be hard to generate separation. Watch this hard cut from D'Lo. He gets himself open. All right, this is the D'Lo slip on a post split cut. Okay, so a post split again is a post entry and then usually some sort of 2-man game with guards that are right off of the post up. Watch how D'Lo sets a screen. Now they're going to switch, right? So D'Lo screens. This is going to be a switch. Watch a D'Lo's man jump out on Austin, and now Austin's man is on D'Lo. But what do we always talk about for beating switching schemes? Screen the lower half and get an inside seal. Watch D'Lo set the screen, get the inside seal, and slip. Now, as he's open, Christian Koloko's man, the big man, has to step over on D'Lo. So that even though D'Lo misses this shot, who's going to get the rebound? Koloko's got inside position with a small player on him. It's an easy offensive rebound putback for him. This is just some 2-man game between Dalton and AD, but Dalton's been really good at making these. He's athletic enough to jump and get the pass over the top relatively easily. Watch this just easy, simple little pitch back to AD. So they're throwing it to Dalton. Here's the ball screen. Watch this easy pass over the top, easy little short jump shot. Here's another one of those release valve possessions with D'Lo. So it starts with an offensive rebound. We're going to go to AD on the left block, okay? But on the post up, we get a double team, okay? So here's our double team. Max cuts. He gets covered by Jeremiah Robinson Earl, right? So it's not open. This guy over here is splitting the difference on the 2 shooters on the weak side, which I believe is LeBron and Austin, if I remember correctly. But watch D'Lo. Or no, it's Dalton and Austin. So it's Dalton and Austin up here, right? So here's our weak side 2-on-1. But AD is getting pressured so much, he doesn't feel comfortable making that kick-out pass. All D'Lo does is make himself available for a kick-out even though he's guarded. But on the kick-out, watch. So D'Lo catches the ball from AD. How does Dalton and Austin attack this 2-on-1? Dalton cuts. This is only open because Dalton has already started his cut and D'Lo doesn't have the ball left and there's 4.7 on the shot clock, right? So if D'Lo doesn't make this read lightning fast, this likely turns into a bad contested 3 at the end of the clock that has almost no chance of going in. Watch how quickly D'Lo processes it. One-timer, dunk. That's the difference between a dunk and a bad 3 at the end of the clock. Quick processing on that secondary read. We get our blitz, post up, double, weak side 2-on-1. And once again, even Dalton didn't just stand at the 3-point line. He's a shooter, but he's not standing at the 3-point line. He's an athlete. He's beating it with a cut. But watch that quick processing from D'Lo. Here's an example of it being defended, a stack pick and roll being defended extremely well, but it just generating a little bit of a closeout that D'Lo was able to beat. Okay, so here's our stack pick and roll, right? Austin ball screen with AD. D'Lo's back screening the roll man, right? They defend it really well. Jalen Noel lingers. He calls for a switch. They tag from the weak side with Jeremiah Robinson Earl to take away the lob. Austin doesn't feel comfortable throwing that pass. Excuse me. Good ball pressure makes it so that Austin doesn't feel comfortable throwing the skip pass. I can't remember who's over here. I think it might be Dalton. Somebody's wide open over here in the corner. Dalton, okay? Doesn't feel comfortable throwing that pass because of the pressure, okay? So who's open? D'Lo. D'Lo's catching, not in a position to shoot, but Jalen Noel is sprinting at him. So D'Lo's able to beat that with just a quick rip to the left. Again, this is that baked-in driving lane. This is important for non-athletes. The best athletes in the world, they don't need baked-in driving lanes. They can just do a hard rip through and they can get where they want to go, right? That goes without saying. But when you have a defender closing out at your right shoulder, if you rip to the left, it's an automatic drive. There's just no way. Like if D'Lo rips left, he's going to get over here. There's no way Jalen Noel can beat him there. rip left, has inside position, hits the floater. And again, Yves Missi is hesitant to step up because if he does, AD's getting a lob dunk. So again, even when it's defended as well as you possibly can defend it, it still is just a high-level offensive player with a guy chasing him off the line. He's going to be able to get a good shot. Here's another one of those exit screens, weak side. So it's a horn set. We got LeBron AD two-man game. AD back screens for Austin. And then while LeBron and AD are running their ball screen, watch Max Christie screen for Austin on the weak side to occupy the help defenders. See? They're pointing, they're occupied. It's just making this guy be a little hesitant to fully step in. And by the way, if he fully steps in to stop LeBron, Austin Reeves is wide open because Max Christie has this back screen here. But he's hesitant, and so he doesn't cut LeBron off, and so LeBron's able to get all the way to the rim and lay it in. That's the value of weak side action. This was a huge play in the game. Lakers down 2. All it is simple, easy advantage creation basketball. LeBron's dribbling at the top of the key, but he sees Dalton connect in the corner, who's made a bunch of threes in this half, and Jalen Noel is playing off of him closer to the lane. So LeBron throws a simple kick-out pass. Look, he takes another step higher and throws the pass. Now watch. What did we just talk about with baked-in driving lanes? He's closing out at Dalton's right shoulder. If he just throws because of the threat of the shot, Jalen Noel cannot afford to throw a passive closeout that locks the lane down. He has to chase him off the line because Dalton's shooting well. Dalton just racks left. Boom. There's that baked-in driving lane. Brandon Ingram steps up. Austin Reeves' man slides down for the corner pass, and Dalton throws a really nice kick-out pass to Austin here at the top of the key. Extra pass to LeBron. Now he gets a wide-open 3. So again, no need to run action. Just, hey, this guy's sinking off of Dalton Connect a little bit. How about he drives a closeout? Now we get ourselves a wide open shot. And then this was the dagger for LeBron, just for good measure. It's a ball screen with AD that forces the switch onto Yves Missi. And out of the switch, LeBron, watch the hard dribble at the basket before the pull-up jump shot to keep Yves on his heels. Watch the hard move. That hard move just keeps him on his heels. Big time shot for LeBron. So again, all of those plays came in one half of NBA basketball. Think about how many easy shots that was. I had, let's see, that's I started at clip number, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So 22 easy shots in one half. 22 easy buckets in one half of basketball. Just by running quality offense with a bunch of high IQ players that make quick decisions, processing the breakdown in the defense fast enough to make it a layup or a 3 that's wide open instead of a bad shot at the end of the clock. It's a simple concept that's hard to deal with. You put a bunch of really smart basketball players that complement each other really well on the court at the same time, they're going to be really difficult to guard. Add some organization to it, and the sky is the limit for this Lakers offense. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you for supporting me and supporting the show. I am recording a mailbag later this afternoon that will air on Friday, and then we'll be back on Monday with our usual power rankings. I will see you guys then.